for some elements k and k prime belonging to k, h k is equal to h prime k prime. That is, although h and note this distinct k, that means h and h prime are not equal. That may happen if these two things are not equal, but the products turn out to be equal for some k and k prime. You may ask me why we don't take k and k prime to be distinct and then claim that these two products are equal for some h and h prime. Of course that can also be done, but that will not be anything different from this one. You see, if h and h prime are different, that's what we are assuming here, then k and k prime also have to be different, because otherwise if k and k prime are equal, then you can use the right cancellation law to conclude that h and h prime are also equal, contrary to how we have chosen h and h prime. So it's enough to consider distinct h and h prime. Automatically k and k prime are also distinct. That means if you instead of this consider k and k prime to be distinct, then that would automatically imply h and h prime are distinct. So it's enough to consider only this case, and this is an example of a collapse. Having chosen different elements h and h prime, we are still getting the same elements hk and h prime k prime. But now what happens? Suppose this is the case, then we can manipulate this somewhat. What we are trying to do here is that we will take all the h's on one side and all the k's on the other side. So we can pre-multiply both sides by h prime inverse. That will give us h prime inverse h, and we can post multiply both sides by k inverse. So on the right hand side, on the left hand side k inverse and k will cancel out. On the right hand side we will have k prime k inverse. Okay, now watch this. Since h prime inverse h belongs to h and k prime k inverse belongs to k, because these are after all elements of h and k, so the fact that they are subgroup allows us to conclude that these products belong to h and k respectively. We have, but they are equal, so this common element belongs to both h and k. We have h prime inverse h equal to k prime k inverse belonging to h intersection k, which is this trivial group in our case. Thus what do we get? This is equal to E. We also have this one equal to E, but we don't need that for now. Thus this is equal to E, or if you pre-multiply both sides by h prime, then you would get the equation h equal to h prime, or h equal to h prime, which is a contradiction. Contradiction to the distinctness of h and h prime. So that means no such collapse can actually happen. Okay, this shows that there is indeed no collapsing in the list of products HK where H belongs to H and K belongs to K. Okay, some ink is needed again. So in this particular case, we in fact have the formula that we want. Thus, order of Hk is in fact equal to order of H times order of K. Now we handle the general case. Now we handle the general situation in which the intersection of H and K is not necessarily the trivial group consisting of the identity element. Okay. As before, we ask how should I phrase this? In this case, we will have repetitions or duplications in the list of elements Hk. But how many times? As before, we ask how many times does an element appear in the list of the products Hk where H belongs to H and K belongs to K. Because if an element, say, is appearing 3 times, then clearly we would not write 3 times. We would not account for what I am trying to say is that we would consider that element only once, although it is repeatedly appearing. But if you just count this number, then all such repetitions are also accounted for. We have to reduce the number, so we have to divide by the number of times it is getting repeated. We want a single element only once in Hk, but the way we are listing these products, there may be repetitions or duplications, so we have to divide by the number of times it is being repeated. So if, for example, an element is being repeated 3 times, then if you count like this, that 3 will appear. So you have to divide by 3 to make it 1. So that's why we have to now claim that the number by which we have to divide is actually order of H intersection K. In other words, we are saying that the number of times an element appears in this list or is repeated in this list is actually order of H intersection K. We claim that this number is order of H intersection K, and that is for every element. Same number for every element, because then only you can divide. If say one element is getting repeated 2 times, another is getting repeated 3 times, then clearly you cannot divide 2 by 2 or by 3. There you have to subtract, but the situation is so nice that each element gets repeated exactly this many times. So you can divide the total number by that number to get the actual number of elements in HK for every element. Okay. First, let us show that any element in this list gets repeated at least this many times, and then we will show that it gets repeated at most that many times. So exactly that many times it will get repeated. Note that for any, okay, instead of writing it vaguely like this, let us first choose some element here, fix H belonging to H and K belonging to K, which by the way are arbitrary elements, but we are fixing them for now. Note that for any element G belonging to H intersection K, this product HK can also be written like this: HG G inverse K, where HG belongs to H and G inverse K belongs to K. Why? Because you see, G is in H, it's in the intersection, so it's in H, and H is already in H, so this product must be in H. Like that, since G is also in K, so G inverse is in K, so G inverse and K, if you take their product, that will be in K. So this product can also be written in a different form, again as a product of one element of H and another element of K. So any element G you choose from this intersection allows you to write a different representation of the same element. So do you see that this means that we can use all the elements of H intersection K to have at least that many representations of the same element in this product? I think it is clear. You keep on changing G, you get different representations of this same element HK, again as an element of H times an element of K. So you have at least this many times an element in this product getting repeated. So any element in the list of products HK where H belongs to H and K belongs to K is repeated at least order of H intersection K this many times. Now if we can show that any other repetition of that same element has already been accounted for in this way of repeating the elements using elements of H intersection K, then our job is done. Now let us take alpha and beta. Let alpha belong to H, beta belong to K, such that Hk is equal to alpha beta. So this is another repetition of this same element as an element of H times an element of K. Now has this already been accounted for here? For that to happen, alpha should be of the form H times some element in H intersection K times that element inverse times beta. Okay. From this equation we have again same thing, bring the elements of H on one side and those of K on the other side. So we will have alpha inverse H equal to beta K inverse. Since alpha inverse H belongs to H and beta K inverse belongs to K, so we have this common element which we may call U, which is alpha inverse H and beta K inverse simultaneously in H as well as K. Okay, but then what is alpha? If you try to calculate alpha from it would have been better if we took this somewhat differently. Right? Instead of taking alpha on this side, let me just take, you will realize why I am changing this. Instead of taking alpha on that side, let me take H on that side. So this will give me, and then I have to take beta on that side. So that means K beta inverse is equal to H inverse alpha. So since H inverse alpha, the arguments are same, only the arrangement is a little different. K beta inverse belongs to K, so we have H inverse alpha and K beta inverse belongs to H intersection K. But then what is now alpha? alpha is equal to, pre-multiply both sides by h, you have hu, and what is beta in terms of u and k. You post multiply both sides by beta, you have u beta equal to k, then pre-multiply both sides by u inverse, so you have beta equal to u inverse k. So now you see what we have got. Thus hk equal to alpha beta is actually equal to this new duplication of that same element as an element of h times an element of k is actually of this form, hu times u inverse k, where u belongs to h intersection k. So you look at this same thing. Here G belongs to H intersection K and it's of this form. Here also, if we have some other duplication, then that has to come from these considerations themselves. Okay, whatever we have done here, there only all the duplications have been accounted for, because U also now belongs to H intersection K. Thus all the duplications are, since we are writing repetitions, all the repetitions you can, if you want, you can give it a this, you can write this as an equation and you can give it a number. All the repetitions have already been accounted for in this equation. Thus every element in the list of products hk, where h belongs to h and k belongs to k, is repeated exactly this many times. Hence the result, the number of elements in this set, number of distinct elements, is the number of elements in the list of such products, which is the product of their orders divided by the number of repetitions, and that completes the proof. It's a nice result and it is a very useful result also. You can use this to solve many problems about finite groups. Okay, now we can use this result immediately in a special case. And that special case is this. Let, I can write here itself, let G be a finite group. Now we are considering G to be a finite group. For this result, the original group G need not be finite. Let G be a finite group and H comma K be subgroups of G, but there are some conditions such that order of H is strictly greater than the square root of the order of G, and order of K is also strictly greater than the square root of the order of G. Say this happens, then can we conclude something non-trivial from this situation? Since Hk after all is a subset of G, we have order of Hk less than or equal to order of G. However, by the above theorem, order of G is greater than or equal to order of Hk. Okay, this we are getting from here, but order of Hk by the above theorem is order of H times order of K divided by order of H intersection K. Okay, now we use these inequalities that we are given. We have strict inequality in both the cases, so we have strict inequality here also. We can replace these orders by the square root of the order of G divided by order of H intersection K, and this becomes equal to order of G divided by order of H intersection K. Now you look at these inequalities. Order of G is strictly greater than order of G divided by order of H intersection K, and we can now cancel order of G from both sides, or to be more rigorous, we can divide both sides of this inequality by the order of G. This implies you divide, you can let us just look at this calculation as such. This calculation ultimately gives us the inequality that order of H intersection K is strictly greater than 1. Okay, that means H intersection K, it already has one element, that is the identity element, but now the order is greater than 1, so that means there should be a non-identity element. It cannot be equal to the trivial group consisting of the identity element, and we have thus proved a corollary to that previous theorem. This is the corollary. Let G be a finite group and H, K be subgroups of G such that order of H is greater than square root of the order of G, and order of K is also greater than square root of the order of G. Then H and K intersect non-trivially. So that's the corollary, and this corollary in fact okay, you can think that fine, this is a fine result, but what about these conditions? In what situation will these conditions be true, so that you can apply this corollary to conclude that H and K intersect non-trivially? One such situation is this. As an application of the above corollary, we consider a group G of order P times Q, where P and Q are prime numbers with P greater than Q. Okay, so say G can be a group of order 6, like S3 is a group of order 6, where it is a product of two distinct primes, 2 and 3, or for example it can be a group of order 35, 5 times 7, so that type of groups. Let H and K be subgroups of G. Let H and K be subgroups of G of order P, both of them have order P, say. Then order of H square is equal to P square. Now you look at this inequality, P greater than Q. We can multiply both sides by P. So we will then have P square greater than PQ, which is order of G. That is, order of H is greater than square root of the order of G. So you see that in this case we indeed have that condition. Similarly, because K also is a subgroup of order P, so similarly order of K is also greater than this. Hence, by the above corollary, H and K intersect non-trivially, that is, order of H intersection K is greater than 1. It has to have at least one non-identity element, so that's why it is greater than 1. But H intersection K is a subgroup of H, and order of H is a prime. So by Lagrange's theorem, since this order has to divide this prime and if this order is greater than 1, so this order also has to be the prime. Okay, so by Lagrange's theorem, order of H intersection K has to be equal to order of H, which is P. Now what does this imply in turn? Since H intersection K is a subset of H, this implies that they should be equal because they have the same number of elements and one of them is a subset of the other, so they have to be equal. There is no other possibility. Now if H intersection K is equal to H, then H is the smaller one, that means H should be contained in K. But this in turn implies H is contained in K. But after this we can again invoke that same argument. H and K are both subgroups of order P. Since order of H is equal to order of K is equal to P, we finally have H is equal to K. So note that what we have achieved here, in a group of order PQ where P and Q are distinct primes, there is at most one subgroup